Hello, and welcome to the Channel of Stories. Dear listeners, before we start the story, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like and share in the comments where you are from. Thank you. Here we go.
Ethan Caldwell never meant to step into the bookstore. The rain had started suddenly, thick drops pelting the city in chaotic rhythm. His driver had dropped him off 2 blocks away after a downtown meeting, and rather than wait in the storm, he ducked into the first warm light he saw. Ridge Books wasn't part of his world. The windows were streaked with water, the wood warped and stained. It smelled like old paper and cloves inside. Perfect. He wandered past poetry shelves, adjusted the collar of his coat. He had on no watch, no rings, no signs of wealth. Just jeans, boots, and the same navy sweater he wore when he wanted to disappear. "Need help?" a voice called. It wasn't commanding, but not soft either. Somewhere in between. He turned. She stood behind a glass display counter, bright-eyed, a little messy, with a pen tucked behind one ear and a paperback folded open in her hand. She looked real. Tired in a way that people who work standing feel tired. But curious. "Just browsing," he said. She nodded. "If you're into obscure travelogues or dusty Soviet poetry, you're in luck." Like he'd left something behind. And he didn't even know her name. Lily Thompson had worked at Ridge Books for 3 years. Not because it paid well, it didn't, or because it was glamorous, it wasn't, but because it gave her time to breathe, and dream. She lived off coffee, second-hand cardigans, and the belief that stories could still change the world. The man who walked in that rainy Tuesday had a quiet intensity she couldn't place. Not rich. He smiled. "You're narrowing my options." "Fair enough. We've got a decent fiction section." Back left. He drifted that way but didn't look at a single book. He was watching her. Not in a predatory way. Just fascinated. How someone could be so still in a life where everything moved too fast. He returned 20 minutes later with a Murakami and a used collection of essays on cities and loneliness. "Excellent choices," she said, ringing him up. "Murakami's basically therapy. The other one's a favorite." "You new in the area?" "Just passing through." She looked up at him. "You have a writer vibe." He blinked. Yeah. I do some freelance writing." "Cool. We host readings sometimes. Local authors. You should come by." Ethan nodded slowly. "I might." As he walked out into the rain again, books in hand, he felt something strange in his chest. Not loud or trying. Just calm. Maybe a writer, she'd guessed. Or a guy running from something. She liked people who weren't obvious. That night, she jotted his name down in her journal. Not because he gave it, he hadn't, but to remember. Raincoat guy. Murakami and sadness eyes. The shop was closing when her manager, Peter, called out from the back. "Lily. Did you restock the magazines?" "On it." She worked the shelf as her mind wandered. He'd said he was just passing through, but there'd been something about his pause. A maybe. 3 days passed before he came back. This time he wore a dark scarf and no rain. His presence felt warmer. He smiled more easily. He remembered her. "You again," she teased. "I liked the bookstore," he said simply. She arched an eyebrow. "Or the Soviet poetry?" Still considering it. He browsed longer that time. Bought 3 books. Asked her opinion on one. "You actually read these?" he asked, curious. "Of course. I'm not just a glass counter gremlin." He laughed, low and genuine. That was the first time she saw him relax. Like he'd finally stopped holding his breath. Ethan hadn't planned to come back. But there was something about the place. Something about her. Lily wasn't like the women he met at charity galas or product launches, who laughed too loud, touched too quickly, asked about IPOs and summer homes in the Hamptons. Lily asked questions like, "Do you think fictional people can save real ones?" And, "If a place feels like home but you've never been there, is it still yours?" And Ethan, who had sat at the helm of Caldwell Innovation since he was 29, whose name appeared in Forbes and Wired, found himself telling her things he'd never told anyone. Except his name. That, he still held close. He told her he was Ethan Cole. Freelance tech journalist. Worked odd hours. Lived part-time between cities. Which, technically, wasn't a lie. He had written under pseudonyms. Once. He let her believe he took the subway. That he read by lamplight in a too-small apartment. That his watchless wrists meant minimalism, not a vault full of timepieces guarded in Zurich. And Lily didn't ask for more. She told him about her mother, a teacher in Maine. Her old dream of writing novels. The way she sometimes woke up at 3 a.m. and scribbled half-stories on napkins because her dreams were too weird to ignore. She didn't know she was already in someone's. By their 5th meeting, she offered him tea behind the counter during her break. By their 7th, she kissed him on the bookstore's back steps, just once, slow and unsure. And Ethan told himself, "You're not lying. You're just waiting to tell the truth." Lily had never been to the Caldwell building downtown. She'd seen it, sure, from buses or walking past, a gleaming glass and steel fortress that stretched into the clouds. She used to joke with coworkers that it probably had gold doorknobs and AI butlers. She never imagined Ethan worked there. And she definitely never imagined he owned it. It happened by accident. A friend of hers, Zoe, had a second job catering a tech gala at the Caldwell building. "You should come," she said. "Free champagne. Creepy rich dudes in suits. Could be fun." Lily went for the free drinks and ironic selfies. She wore a dress she hadn't touched since graduation and felt like an imposter among the polished marble and soft jazz. Until she saw him. Ethan. Standing near the stage. Not as a guest. Not as a writer. As the host. He didn't see her, he was mid-conversation, gesturing subtly while nodding at a suited exec. But his voice carried. "We'll announce the new AI initiative before Q2. Tell legal to hold the press until I sign off." And that's when it hit her. Caldwell. Ethan Caldwell. She left before the speeches. He called her later that night. She didn't pick up. He texted. "Lily. I need to explain. But how do you explain that the man you kissed behind a used bookshop wasn't who he said he was? That the subway rides and instant ramen stories were a mask?" Lily stared at her phone and felt sick. He'd looked at her like she mattered. And now all of it, felt scripted. Ethan waited outside the bookstore the next day. No umbrella, no driver, no guards. Just him and the same rain that had first introduced them. Lily walked past him like he wasn't there. He followed. "Lily, wait." She stopped. Turned. Her eyes weren't angry, they were quiet. And that scared him more. "You lied." "I didn't mean to." She shook her head. "You meant every part of it. You crafted it." "Ethan Cole? Really? I just wanted something real." "Then be real." She walked away. Inside Ridge Books, her hands trembled as she restocked poetry. A hardcover slipped from her grasp, hit the floor spine first, and cracked open. She stared at it. It was a collection of translated love poems. The kind he used to pick up, just to ask what she thought of the cover art. Everything felt counterfeit now. Peter approached, hesitant. "That guy outside, he looked like trouble. "He is," she said, placing the book back. "The worst kind." She worked late, avoiding the ache in her chest. At home, she found a package at her door, no name, just a hand-addressed note. Inside, a first edition of her favorite novel, The Bell Jar. Annotated. Each margin had thoughts. His thoughts. Her quotes. Scribbled jokes. At the back, a single sheet. "I lied about my name. Not about what I felt." She folded it and placed it on her windowsill, staring at the blinking city lights beyond. She wanted to stay mad. But something about the annotations made her smile. Lily hadn't seen her father in over a decade. He left when she was 13, scandal, headlines, stock crashes. She remembered her mother crying into the phone, shouting words like embezzlement and fraud. After that, Thompson became a name she buried behind books and borrowed identities. Now he was back. She spotted him first, gray at the temples, thinner, tired. Sitting on a bench outside the bookstore like a ghost too stubborn to leave. "I didn't expect this bookstore to still be here," he said. She crossed her arms. "You came back for a field trip or something?" "I came back for you." Lily didn't respond. Instead, she studied him, how old he looked. Not just in years, but in consequence. "I heard you're seeing someone," he said. "Was." He tilted his head. "Caldwell?" She narrowed her eyes. "I know the name. He didn't just start the company. He expanded it. After my fall." The realization came sharp. "What do you mean?" "I mean his company acquired my patents in '08. I lost everything because of the people he now runs with." The ground shifted beneath her. "You're saying Ethan helped ruin you?" "I'm saying the story's never simple." She left without another word, her chest a war zone. Back in her apartment, she stared at Ethan's note again. "I lied about my name. Not about what I felt." She wasn't sure which part of him to believe anymore. But she knew one thing, nothing about this was going to be simple. The next morning, Lily did what she always did when she couldn't think straight. She wrote. Not for a blog or a novel. Just for herself. On yellow-tinged paper with the kind of pen that leaked slightly. She wrote to Ethan, not to send, but to understand. "You said you wanted something real. I did too. But real doesn't come from lies, no matter how pretty. My father says you helped bury him. My gut says you're not that man. But my head doesn't know how to separate the two." She folded it. Set it in the desk drawer. And then, against every better judgment, she called him. They met at a riverside cafe where no one would recognize him. Ethan looked like he hadn't slept. His shirt was wrinkled. His smile, cautious. She slid a folder across the table. "My dad says your company used his patents without credit. Says your success was built on ashes." Ethan opened the folder. Inside were articles, court filings, a few clipped emails. He looked up slowly. "Lily, I didn't even take over the company until after that happened. I was brought in because of the mess. So it's not true?" "It's true that your father was wronged. But not by me." He pulled out a flash drive. "I found this in old board records. The one guy who orchestrated it, Robert Klein. He's dead now. Heart attack 2 years ago. But this proves who signed off." Lily stared. "You brought evidence?" "I brought what I should have brought from the start. The truth." Silence hung between them, filled only by passing cars and the flap of a pigeon's wings. "Why me?" she asked finally. "Why a bookstore girl when you have everything?" He leaned forward, voice lower. "Because you looked at me and saw a person. Not a product. Because you made me feel like I didn't have to perform. Her heart cracked open. Just a little. Ethan didn't go back to the Caldwell Tower the next day. Instead, he called a press conference. Not in a hotel ballroom or tech stage spotlight, he chose an independent media house, one known for transparency, with no corporate ties. Lily watched from the back of the room, arms crossed, unsure what to expect. When Ethan stepped up to the mic, he looked nothing like the billionaire CEO the world had built him into. He looked like a man with nothing left to hide. I built my reputation on innovation, he began. But I'm standing here because I want to talk about restitution. He didn't use jargon. No PR fluff. He named names. He told the full story, how his board had hidden acquisitions under shell companies. How they'd bought out struggling firms and buried their creators, including one man named Frederick Thompson. Lily's father. I wasn't in charge then, Ethan said. But I benefited from what they did. And that means I owe. Gasps. Flashes. Typing. Today, I'm resigning from Caldwell Innovations. Effective immediately. I've created a fund for independent tech developers wronged by this industry. The first recipient will be Frederick Thompson. The room exploded. Reporters shouting questions. Lily stood frozen. He'd burned the house down. For her. That night, she found him on her doorstep, hair windblown, smelling like city smoke and rain. You did it, she said quietly. I couldn't keep being two people. She hesitated only a second before stepping forward. And kissing him like maybe, just maybe, this was a story worth telling after all. Ethan moved into a small studio above a used record shop. It wasn't a statement. It was necessity. No staff, no assistants, no suits. Just a bed, a window, and shelves he built himself. Lily visited every weekend. Sometimes with coffee. Sometimes with nothing but quiet. They didn't talk about the press. Or the money he gave away. They talked about books again. And music. And how the city looked different when you stopped pretending you owned it. She called it their paper moon phase. Like everything was fragile, beautiful, slightly unreal. Ethan started writing, for real this time. Anonymously, at first. Essays on ethics, on love, on identity. A piece called The Lie That Fell in Love with Truth went viral. He never claimed credit. Lily kept working at the bookstore. But one day, Peter handed her a letter. A small press wanted to publish her short stories. Said her voice felt raw and undeniably honest. She almost cried. I guess they liked sad girls with jokes, she told Ethan. I love sad girls with jokes, he said. The world kept moving around them, fast, loud, glittery. They stayed still. Just long enough to realize what they had wasn't a fairy tale. It was better. It was a life they built together, one real word at a time. The bookstore hadn't changed much. The bell above the door still chimed off-key. The poetry section still sagged in the middle. The glass display counter still had a crack in one corner, one Ethan had offered to fix months ago but never did. He ran his fingers along it now, slowly. You nervous? Lily asked, arms folded as she leaned against the doorframe. He nodded. I built billion-dollar companies. Gave TED Talks. But yeah, terrified. She smiled. It was the first reading of his new book, under his real name. A memoir, sort of. A love letter to transparency, to second chances. To her. The shop had filled with people, neighbors, customers, a few curious bloggers. And one woman who used to be just a name on a receipt. Ethan stepped behind the counter. The same one where he'd first heard her laugh. And read aloud. I walked into Ridge Books to escape the rain. I didn't know I'd be walking into a mirror. One that would show me who I really was, beneath the money, the myth, the guilt. She stood behind a counter with cracked glass and saved my life without trying. This isn't a fairy tale. There were lies. There was fallout. But also, there was truth. And it began with a question: do you think fictional people can save real ones? He closed the book. The room was quiet. Then Lily clapped, once, twice, until others joined. But she was already moving toward him. Behind the counter now. In front of everyone. She kissed him. Right there, in the bookstore that started it all. Because some stories don't end. They just turn the page.